Hi everybody, welcome back to Small Caliber Arms Review. I'm Richard, and today we're going to do a little woodworking project. Yes, it's gun related. Anyways, I've got several black powder revolvers, and usually when you load them, you have to put pressure on that loading arm and everything, and you want to stand them upright. Now I've got my two extremes here. I've got my largest muzzle loading. This is the 1847 Walker, and it's a pretty big firearm there. And then I've got my smallest one here. This is a 1849 Pocket. So they're two pretty different sizes. So we're going to make a stand today to hold both of these. And the reason is because when you put this thing down on a table, like on the countertop of my bar, it leaves a bunch of little dents in there when I'm taking and pushing this thing down there, and it leaves a bunch of little dings in it. You need something to securely hold the firearm up to make it easy to get in there and pour the powder and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to make a kind of a quick and dirty loading stand for these things that will fit both sizes. Now I've done a little bit of sketching, and I think this is what I'm going to do. I've got some scraps left over from a couple woodworking projects I did, and I've got some 1x oak. I've got some 1x6, which is actually only 5.5 inches wide, and I've got some 1x3, which is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to make kind of a L-shaped stand here with a little kick out piece there that's kind of a little V-notch in it that will hold the barrel in the upright position there. It'll kind of fit right around here, and I think I've come up with the proper distance, 8 inches from the butt of the gun here to the little saddle piece that's going to hold it. And that should fit both of these. It'll catch the Walker right about there. It'll catch the little 1849 Pocket right at about midway of the barrel there. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of notch this piece in there, mortise and tenon, notch it, whatever. I'm going to do it. I'm going to inlay that in there, I guess. My little V block right there is going to be holding the barrel up, and it's just going to be an L-shaped piece is all it is. And then we'll put some kind of stop on here to keep the butt of the gun from wanting to kick out when you're going to push pressure down on that loading ram. I have not made one of these before. I've just seen a few pictures. Most of them you can actually buy some too from, I think Traditions make some, where the top piece on there actually folds down, so it'll fold flat. We're not going to make this one fold. We're not going to do anything extremely fancy on it. We're just going to make it functional, and that's it. Let's get to working on it. Okay, so I've got my pieces cut out there. I may change this. This was going to be my stop for the buttstock on there. And what I did was I kind of rounded these off. Like I said, this is just kind of quick and dirty. I rounded the edges off on the belt sander. You could actually, or on the disc sander part of it, you could actually take a router and go around there and give you a lot nicer finish on it. You could do some fancy edges on it, the whole 9 yards. But I've got my upright piece cut out here. I did the same thing on that. That's actually going to be the back side. I want this side to be square so that my little V-notch piece right there will look pretty decent on there. And I'm going to take some of that suede that I used on another project. I'm going to epoxy or contact cement on here and glue it to this piece here just as a little cushion there. And I may put a little piece down here on the bottom just for the butt of the gun to sit on there. But this is going to go right in there, and this piece will go on the top there. And like I said, hopefully this will work for both guns. The little short one there, the 1849, and the 1847. Now that's quite a bit higher than the other part of it. I'll turn that where you can see it anyways. So that's going to sit in there sort of like that. And again, the 1849, it'll be really a good height for that. We just got to put the piece down here on the bottom to keep that from kicking out. And I cut this piece out, which was the full width. And since I rounded those edges, it'll look bad. So I may just cut this down a little bit smaller around the top edges, 3 of the edges anyways, and then we'll find the sweet spot for it and get it set up for both pistols. Okay, so I've got a dilemma here. I've got several different black powder firearms. So I've got the 1849 pocket here, and if I put that there, then the buttstock comes up to there, the butt of the gun comes up to there. If I put the 1847 on there, which is the biggest black powder revolver I got, it comes all the way back to here. And if I get out my 1858 or my new model Army, it comes to about in the middle of that, maybe a little bit less. They're about 3/4 of an inch, or I'm going to adjust them so they're 3/4 of an inch between the lines there. Each one will be 3/4 of an inch difference. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this block. So if I go in 1.25 inches, let's do this. And then I think I'm going to put, and I'll drill the pins down in there, maybe just a single pin. 3 holes in here, 3/4 of an inch apart, and I'll put a pin in here. So yeah, we should be able to figure something out anyways. Anyways, let me get this cut apart and do some figuring. All right, after digging around in the junk drawers, here's what I did. I found a couple cap screws, stainless steel cap screws. They're pretty short too. They're actually, what are they, 3/4 of an inch. With that big head on there. So I drilled a hole all the way through there, and I've got my lines set up at 3/4 of an inch. I've got these spaced at 3/4 of an inch, and I actually tapped the wood there too, so I can go ahead and put these in there. And I kind of wish I did not match drill the holes there. So what I did do was I relied on my ability to measure, and of course, it was not all that precise with wood. It did move around on me a little bit. So what I can do is, I got one of them. Let's say I want to set it up for the 1847. So I line that hole up there and go ahead and thread my bolt in there. Now I could drill the holes a little bit oversized on the block there on the stop, and that would get me closer to where I need to be. So I've got that in there, and I can back this one out and tighten it down too. So really, I mean, you could put a bolt in there with a wing nut on it if you wanted to. It doesn't matter, anything you want to do. Like I said, this is kind of a quick and dirty and made out of just stuff I already had laying around. Now, threading into wood is not the best, I guess, but I mean, it'll work. I also didn't get them real straight, it doesn't look like. So for the 1847, there it is. It's got enough room to wiggle around a little bit. Now, if I want to change it over to the 1858, I can either let it sit slanted in there like that and do it that way, which is doable too. But when I get down to the 1849 pocket, that's just, I mean, you could do that too, but I want the option to be able to move it up there. So all I got to do is loosen these up. Now, if I'm going to take all 3 of them out to the range at the same time, yeah, it's going to be a pain. But if I just want to take one of them out there with me, then I can do that too. I think a wing nut setup on here would be a little easier, and have the wing nut up on the top. That way you could just loosen it up anywhere you wanted. So I can go there, or I can move it all the way up there for the 1849. Or maybe I've only got one, and that's the way I want to do it. In that case, you could go ahead and put a couple wood screws in the bottom and leave it at one spot, and that would be it. That'd be the only size you needed, really. So I move it all the way up to the shortest one. Now I can take the 1849 and put it in there, and it sits nice and vertical. Now when I want to go ahead and load it, just pull the hammer back to half cock, put it in there, pull my loading arm down, and I can do what I got to do. Of course, this one's a little short loading arm on there. It's kind of a pain. Okay, so it is definitely not the prettiest loading stand out there, but it is a functional loading stand, and I'll probably just take this out and leave it out there in the saloon. That way, when I want to go ahead and load one of these things up, I've got it out there. Not real fond of having to take the bolts out of the bottom of it there if I want to adjust the size, but you know, that's one of the problems with having multiple guns of different sizes like that, is you're going to encounter different problems like that too. So it is doable. I could ream those holes out a little bit more so that it could just pick up and slide over, and I may do that, who knows. I don't even know that I'm going to put any kind of finish on this thing. I will put a little piece of red suede up here because I've got some scraps. I'll glue it on there, and it'll be what it is, really. It'll just kind of keep from scuffing up the firearm. But if I want to adjust it for a different one, all I got to do is take it off of there and move it to the appropriate hole, and it's ready to go. And threading bolts into wood is not the best idea, but it doesn't get a lot of force pushing outward on that piece. Plus it's shear strength. I'm not putting any different forces on it. I'm not going to tighten them real tight, but if I want to put the walker in there, then there it is. It holds it just fine. It's able to hold it in a vertical position, and you can really get in there and do what you got to do to it to get everything loaded up. Anyways, thanks for taking a look at the quick and dirty loading stand I made here. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and glue me a piece of suede on there. Who knows, I may take the time to sand it down and finish it up and make it look kind of pretty. But other than that, that's all you got to do. This was all made out of scraps. I did have some leftover screws, a couple bolts I had. You could put wooden dowels in there. I don't know that I would do that. Like I said, there's not a lot of force pushing outward on it that direction. Most of your force is going to be pushing straight down when you're loading it up. And you can load them, you know, like that, like I've been doing and putting dents all in my my bar top out there, but this will keep me from doing that. Anyways, thanks for taking a look. If you could, hit this button up here to check out some of my other videos. Hit this button right here to subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching Small Caliber Arms Review.